and welcome to the LiveU Sports Show. My name is Chris Perry, coming to you live tonight from Barnstable, Massachusetts. Yes, that's right. Earlier this week, I started off down in Fort Myers, Florida, made a long trek north like a Canadian goose. It was a trip up the East Coast, and I've landed in Boston, made it down to Cape Cod, and that is where I am now. I picked up some new shirts along the way, some new digs, a nice new background. And I'm so glad to have you along on the LiveU Sports Show tonight. But before we get into the show this evening, I have to check out with my director down south, not up north this time, James from the Garden State. Good evening, James. How are things in the control room tonight?
Chris, things are going good. I had to step up the dress game tonight. I saw you wearing a suit, so it's sort of we got little uniforms now.
I know we need a little LiveU Sports logo on our jackets here. But James, I got to ask, do you have the official LiveU cufflinks?
I do not. My sleeves are actually rolled up because it's about 120 degrees in here right now, so I'm struggling with that.
I know that feeling all too well. It's about 100 degrees down here as well. So, James, keep up the good work. Always a pleasure. So, I know you, James, among others, had lots of comments about the ducks that we had over my shoulder over the last 2 weeks. Well, there's no ducks now. I'm sorry to tell you that. But we've outdone ourselves here. I now have a 5-foot, fully functioning nutcracker. Handmade in Germany, flown here on an L1011 all the way from there. How about them apples? Anyways, let's get right into it. For our main story tonight, we get back into the driver's seat, and we're talking with Griiip this evening. Marco Maddaloni joins us all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. Good evening, Marco.
Good evening, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the LiveU Sports Show. Can you talk a little bit about Griiip and your organization and what you guys bring?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Griiip started out as a car racing company, basically manufacturing cars with one specific user in mind, the driver. And our philosophy and idea was to bring accessibility to the sport that has become very inaccessible because of costs. And so we wanted to make the sport accessible to drivers. And we created this car called the G1, which is an affordable but yet high performance car. And that's how the company started out. And then in 2018, we actually launched our own racing series in Italy. And, the whole idea of the company started out with basically just bringing accessibility to motorsports, which we felt that it was lacking.
And so, I know that you guys use some LiveU units. Can you talk a little about how you guys work with LiveU and the collaboration that we had put in place and really what that means in terms of being able to work with the drivers?
Yes, absolutely. So as the story evolved and we were running our series, we basically saw the opportunity of working with LiveU and creating this initial collaboration, which basically shares the same idea as LiveU's philosophy, which is to also keep costs under control. And so we felt that, knowing the cost of even producing a small event, how much it can cost. So we understood the potential of a joint solution between LiveU and Griiip. And it was hand in hand with our philosophy of affordability. So we started working using LiveU units on our cars in our races in Italy.
And so how does the technology help bring fans closer to the drivers? Because this is a really interesting use case. I mean, sure, lowering cost is important, but really at the end, you're trying to get that fan engagement. You're trying to put them in the driver's seat of that car. How does your tech matched with ours bring that to them?
Right. On many different levels. Basically, our joint solution is, you guys bring the video and we bring the data. The data, I always make this analogy that it's the new oil of this century. So combining the video with the data, you make the races much more interesting by then being able to extract from each race stories, because there's a lot that goes on in the race, but sometimes it goes unnoticed and people don't really, or the viewers don't really understand what's going on. And so with the joint solution, we're able to bring all these elements that are in a race in a way that for the viewer, it's very user friendly or viewer friendly, and they're able to interact and understand the race a lot more. There's many other things that we're also doing to create more interaction, such as bringing virtual races, and inside the virtual races we have the same idea of this language that we're creating, with the graphics. And for the first time now, viewers are able to watch this in a way that makes sense to them, and they can understand fully well, and eliminate the disconnect that sometimes there is between viewers and drivers, and viewers and understanding fully what's happening inside each race.
So I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of a racing novice. I've seen some Indy races, watched a little NASCAR, not very much. And those races all have announcers and huge graphic packages. What do your graphic packages look like, and how does that, differ from what would be available as a solution that you'd see on these massive productions?
Well, basically what's happening with a lot of the graphic packages that you see is on some level, some of them are ranking and statistical things such as speed and things like that. What we're bringing as a solution differs that in a way that basically we're taking, our system is called RAMP, Racing Media Platform. It's installed in every single car together with the LiveU solution. So basically we bring the LiveU video to a mixing station together with all the data that we're gathering from each car. All this goes into a mixing station. Inside the mixing station, we actually analyze everything that is happening, all these different parameters. And there are many different parameters like overtakes and crashes and the driver's aggressiveness and so on in style. And basically we analyze all this, and then automatically we give all these graphics in real time back to the user or to the viewer in a way that it's never seen before. So it's basically our analysis are a lot deeper than what you've seen in the market right now.
Now you bring up this concept of things like aggressiveness, how aggressive a driver is. Are you using like an AI engine to determine exactly how that's working?
Yes, we are. And basically we are, to the previous point, we are actually one of the first company to actually centrally collect and gather all this data. And basically our analysis are based on millions of data lines. And inside these data lines, we can detect many different trends like mistakes in the driving styles and making comparisons to other drivers using all these elements of AI within our system.
Sounds like this technology is really poised to revolutionize motorsports. What are you guys looking to do in the future with it, and how do you think it's going to change the industry?
That's really what we set out to do. Basically, RAMP, our racing media platform, cracks the code for unrealized revenue within racing series and the racing ecosystem. And that's our idea. It's still in line with the original idea of bringing accessibility to the sport and bringing affordability to the sport. And in addition to that, we're actually able to help series to monetize and create revenue in ways that they haven't been able to before, especially the small series, or I should say smaller series. We're able to give them this upgrade and create them value, and create value as well for their sponsors, create value for their drivers so they can get feedback on what's happening in the race. Basically just revolutionizing the whole industry, all the different verticals within the industry.
That's awesome. And so from your perspective, with racing probably coming back sooner than some other sports, where do you think eSports is going to go? And do you have a plan to support eSports racing?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, from the beginning, also, we were in the first racing series in the world to combine real races with virtual races. For also part of the point that the drivers in our racing series in Italy, virtual races was an integral part of the races. This season, because of obviously everything that is happening in the world, I mean, we are broadcasting just the virtual races, and we have media partners such as ESPN broadcasting our races, ESR in the US also broadcasting our races, Motorsport TV as well. And our idea is to, as I mentioned before, our system, our RAMP system will be also combining, for the first time, and this is something that hasn't been done in the past, is creating, collecting, and storing the same language and comparing both races in many different aspects. So like drivers now will be able to get inside simulators and drive against real drivers, and the same analysis will be used and shared across the platform. And that's our version of mixed reality races. We're not yet doing this at the moment. We are, though, broadcasting our virtual races for the G1 series. And actually, it's starting this week, and it will be broadcast on ESPN, like I said, on ESPN, ESR, and Motorsport TV.
That's amazing. So at some point, I could drive a virtual race and basically compete in a G1 series?
And you'll be able to also get feedback comparing to other drivers and your performance. And, and for the first time, all these analysis will be available to you, how you perform against real drivers in real races, yes.
What do you expect in the coming months as racing starts to come back, maybe even sooner than some of the other sports that obviously require people to be very close to one another?
We feel that, with every crisis and every, unfortunately, events such as the ones that are happening right now, also opportunities come with it. And we feel like our system, it's enabling viewers to enjoy the races even more. So we feel like even in the next couple of months, when events start to open up around the world, even if they don't have audiences, around the tracks and so on, we'll be able to really bring the excitement of viewers actually being inside the race, and even more so than in the past, And like I said from the beginning, our philosophy has always been to create accessibility in the sport, whether it's from a affordability perspective or just creating the accessibility, because we're able to show the race in a way that viewers can participate more, can be engaged within the race much more because of the storytelling. So we feel like over the next couple of months we'll be able to install our system in other series, and they'll be able to enjoy, bring to their viewers and to their fans and their drivers a system that will engage them a lot more, whether they have their audiences or not.
Marco, thanks so much. It's really cool, the stuff that you guys are working on. I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thanks so much, Chris. It was my pleasure.
And now, on a remotely interesting segment, Janelle joins us to talk about IFB. So before we get into it, I have to bring up our remotely interesting segment actually came out of our comments section from a few weeks ago. James, if you would please, Craig asked, can you guys talk through the IFB setup on your show? Now, if anyone has any questions or comments at any point in time, please do feel free to put them inside of our comments section. They could end up as a topic on our remotely interesting segment at some point in time. We're always here, either that or we'll try and answer them directly in the comments themselves. So with that, I would like to welcome in Janelle, who is back up in New Jersey. Janelle, how are you this evening?
I'm great. I actually also got the memo to wear a suit jacket, so I'm part of this group with you guys. I did not get the cufflinks, but I'll be writing to marketing about that, I'm sure, after this.
We'll have to work on it. So Janelle, so many people ask whether or not LiveU can support IFB. What does it take for a customer to get IFB into the LiveU ecosystem?
Sure. So I like this topic of this segment because I get this question often, even with our at-home production solution, but most often today, people are doing these studio shows out of people's homes. So, the single most important thing is back-channel communication between the studio control room and the field crew. Without this, you have no idea what's going on. The scariest scenario for any director is making their talent look foolish. So this feature is incredibly important. So while LiveU doesn't provide a capability to do mix minus, we do provide a reliable and easy way that enables that back channel of communication. It's built into all of our units and all of our products. So really the simplest thing is you need a USB appliance to plug into an LU2000, and then you can get it configured from there.
So let's jump right to what this actually looks like, because we're actually using our own technology for this show right now for IFB. That's how I hear you in my ear and how you hear me in yours. Can you take us through how we set IFB up for this particular show?
Yeah, sure. So we've put together a graph to illustrate this better, but essentially you can see here video from each of our units. Chris and I are using an LU600, are being fed to our LU2000 server sitting in James's living room. From there, it's being fed into a Blackmagic TV Studio switcher, which fortunately for us has built-in mix-minus capabilities. You can use a separate audio mixer for this, or other video switchers have this built in, depends on what you have. So in our case, the output of that mix minus is on an SDI output coming out of the switcher. So from there, we're actually converting the SDI to analog audio, and that analog audio is going into that USB audio interface that I mentioned. This is the key component to enable the IFB on each of our devices. So in our situation, we're using a Scarlett Focusrite, but we actually have a list of recommended appliances that we recommend on our website. We'll probably link it at the end of the show, but these are the ones we've tested or tried and true. So from there, like I said, connected to the LU2000, and on the back end, you can actually assign in LiveU Central, our management platform, the audio channels on each one of the LU600 or any field units out in the field. So directly on the field unit, you can plug in a earpiece to this 8-inch mini audio jack. That's what's plugged in today with our LU600s. It's what I'm using now to communicate to Chris. I've got a Bluetooth plugged in, and I'm listening to you via my AirPods.
So on this side, I've got an LU600 that's connected to a fairly long cable that is then plugged into a JK Audio remote amplifier with an XLR cable. That then gets plugged into this cable, which goes up to an audio clarifier and button behind my neck. I've got the acoustical ear tubing and then the earpiece in my ear. And of course, I've got the volume so that I can turn you up and down so that I can hear you about as loud as I need to. So Janelle, can you tell us what's next in terms of audio functionality and return audio channel functionality on the LiveU platform?
Sure. So today IFB is IFB. It's one way. It's from the control room to your field crew. So our recent software release, we actually enabled two-way communications. So similar to how the IFB is set up, we can now enable you to have camera operators in the field talk back to the control room via IFB, which can become critical, especially when you're doing a multi-camera production and you need to speak to many operators in the field, and they also need to speak back to the director depending on where they are, depending on the sport. So this is actually going to be something that we're going to continue to build upon and enhance because audio is so critical and communication is so critical in a production. We're launching what we're calling an audio assist program soon, hopefully at the end of this year, and it's sort of like a party line, so it's got a lot of the functionality of a mix minus, but also you can use it with our units, without our units. So I'm really excited to see that roll out.
And just for 1 second, what does the configuration of this look like on the other side of things? Because obviously this is controlled through some centralized management system.
Yeah, so LiveU Central is our web interface to control all of our devices, all of our field units, all our servers. So as soon as you plug in an LU2000, a USB appliance to the LU2000, you can immediately go into LiveU Central and start to assign under the Manage tab the audio interfaces. So, depending on how many channels, you really only need to plug into one device, and then you'll be able to assign the audio to any of the channels that are in your group. So if you've got 2, 3, 4 LU2000 servers, you'll be able to see that, just plug into one and assigned from there. So it's fairly straightforward and simple. I like to joke that LiveU is lazy LiveU because most of the things, anybody can do it. It's so easy.
Awesome. Well, Janelle, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Same here. Thanks, Chris.
And my friends, that's going to do it for this edition of the LiveU Sports Show. Next week, exciting lineup. We're talking to a regional sports network called Altitude Sports as we discuss the creative ways that they're bringing their fans sports during this hiatus. Also, mark your calendars right now. June 2nd, big announcement. I cannot even tell you how excited I am that we're going to be bringing this to you. That'll be broadcast online June 2nd. Make sure you mark your calendars. On behalf of everyone here at LiveU and this 5-foot wooden nutcracker that's been sitting way too close to me for the entire show, thanks for watching. I'm Chris Perry. Good night.
Thanks for watching the LiveU Sports Show.